Welcome to the Amplus Forms online training. During this module we will teach you about the data field and discuss how to manage its unique properties when creating a form. Please take a look at Module 1A on Properties, Common Features for instruction on the common properties associated with fields. To display and manipulate data rows from an external source, you will first need to define a data source which models the particular data entity in question. Effectively, a data source is just rows and columns of data. The rows and columns will need to be connected or otherwise pushed into our system for use in your apps. The data field type selects the matching row from a filtered data source invisible to users. Note, there are different approaches you can take when using imported data. Another is by taking a choices field. Adding a data field is not required because you can add the data source here. Now when you add a data field from the design panel from the advanced fields, you will give it a unique data name. So I'm just going to call this data underscore demo. You will notice below we have a property data source with a description immediately below. On here I'm going to choose our data source and I'm going to use our electronic materials. Now what we're doing here is selecting our target database to which the form is being linked. Now you can use filter rows and user interaction to refine the selection of a specific row in the given data source. Once a data source is selected, you can populate column values into form fields using the bind to data source field property or via a dynamic value. So here you can see the bind to data source. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my electronic materials. Here you can see whether it's the data demo or electrics, so we'll say it's from the data demo, and here you can see the list of items that we can bind it to. I'm going to use the manufacturer. Now more on bind to data source can be found in Module 1A Advanced Common Properties. Please see Module 2D that gives you more of an in-depth look at the dynamic value and a working demo. So if we go back to our data source, below the data source, here you can see filter rows. We also have use criteria and use formula. Now if I was to select use criteria, we get two drop down boxes. In the drop down menu we're going to choose manufacturer. The next drop down in criteria is what you want to apply to the first drop down. They range from equals to contains to matches an expression. Let us select equals. The text box is where you enter the answer from a data name using curly brackets or a static value. So here in criteria we can use our formula, which is open quote colon in list close quote, as you can see here. In list filters match columns against comma or pipe delimited values. It could be a fixed value of, let's say, manager. The use of formulas is extremely powerful since it allows you to specifically write a formula to exactly how you want it. An example is specifying column 3 greater than an answer from a field in your form. More information on these topics can be found on the Amplus Forms knowledge database. The next property is description, and all we're going to put here is the same as our data source name, which is going to be electronics materials. Now below description we have validation and behavior. Now here we can see our dynamic value. We can use this property to define a calculation or formula that will populate this field's value. Now as we scroll down in advanced options we have default value. What is entered here will be the initial value of this field. The last property in this module we shall discuss is exclude, export, display. Now by default every field is populated from entries in the data area and is included in a non-template exports. For example, generic PDF, CSV, spreadsheets, database connectors. But if we place a tick in this box here, this property will now prevent the field from showing in all such displays and exports. You typically do not want a data field to show in an Excel table output. Of course, the best way for you to learn is by doing so. We encourage you to create a new screen or form, add fields and play with the properties within them. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And if you have any questions, feel free to email support@amplusforms.com.